minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is James Valvis coming at you with a new Freeform. This is the one where I just talk about whatever comes to mind. In the last couple episodes, I just came up with this whole idea of condensed life, and I actually ran with it. I think that it doesn't even belong as a Freeform. It's focused on that particular topic, but I had no idea that I was going to come to that topic. I just started talking, and that's where it went. And then I found I had a two-part talk about how life is condensed in that way and shorter than we imagine, and most of it is just space. But I'm hoping that this one is a little bit more of a real free form, in which I'm just saying various things or whatever comes to mind. And it was just so. The first thing I want to talk about is the channel. I mean, because the channel is morphing, it's changing, it's becoming a certain thing. There's certain patterns coming into play here, and I'm not done with it yet, but there's lots of stuff that's going on, and I may actually make 2 channels or even 3 channels, because there's the literary work, which I think is its own little world, and then there's the commentary, which is what I'm doing now, which is its own little world. And then I'm going to do the gaming stuff, and that will be its own little world. I just bought a new camcorder, not anything expensive, just something that will, take pictures of me gaming, and maybe even vlogging, in which you actually see my face rather than a still. I don't know why anybody want to look at my face. It's not the best face in the world, but I just think that sometimes putting a face to things makes it a little more personal. Even if I put my face in a still, it just doesn't have the same effect. This is radio on television is what I'm doing. Right now I'm just doing radio. I'm not doing television. And maybe I should be doing television. So I bought a camera. It was, it's $60 or something like that, around that area. And, a little more than that when you buy the SD card. And I bought, something in the something to cover up my microphone, because I do this thing with my mouth. It's a little pop, just periodically. It's just a natural thing that I do, and it's got to be annoying to people. I can imagine that it's annoying to people, and so I'm hoping that will help that, at least stop that popping thing that I do with my mouth, which is annoying. I must annoy my wife something crazy. She's never said anything about it, but boy, I can imagine. And I've listened to myself a couple of times in these videos, and I was like, oh wow, do I really do that often, all the time? That's probably not as prominent in your everyday life. It doesn't seem, probably doesn't come out as clearly as it does over a microphone, but it's a problem. So I'm hoping that this little thing that I bought will fix that. So I'm using up all my my Amazon gift card money for my YouTube channel, so that the 3 people who who listen to this stuff will have a better experience. But I really I'm having a blast doing it. It doesn't really bother me that there's not a very big audience, especially since I'm finding my way. If I was really, if I was this great tech guy and I was doing all this wonderful stuff and spending all day on it, I spend a lot of time on it. I spent a considerable amount of time, especially doing the poetry features of other authors. That takes me a considerable time to do that, because I have to search out the poems I want to do. I have to read the poems perfectly, because I don't want to mess up other people's poems. It's one thing if I screw up my own poems, and I do occasionally. I'll miss a word here or there, and I say, whatever. It's my poem. It's no big deal. It's whatever. But somebody else's poem, I take greater care with that. It's not easy to be perfect reading somebody else's work. It's very easy to mess up. It's very easy to goof. And you wouldn't even know it sometimes, because you just flow by it. And doing the introductions and the closes, those are not as easy as they seem either. If they seem easy, I don't imagine that I make anything look easy here. But I do. They're quite difficult to get right, because you want the right balance of information and enthusiasm for the subject. Because each of these poets, they're amazing people, they're amazing writers, and they deserve that. They deserve that kind of attention to their accomplishments and to their and to the way that I feel about their work, and the way I hope that other people will feel about their work. To transpose that emotion onto other people, so that they go out and they say, "Wow, this is an awesome writer. Let me go find out more about them." That's what I hope. It's one thing to just listen to a video of somebody reading somebody's poems, say that's nice, and then you go about your day. But what I'm hoping that people will do is go out, buy their stuff, buy their books, really get deeply into these writers, because they're terrific. They deserve it. That's why I'm doing it. I wouldn't put them on my channel if I didn't think they were deserving. There are many writers out there. There are many, many thousands of writers, and for me to put them on my channel means that I think highly of them. And not just as writers, but as people. I wouldn't put somebody on a channel I didn't like as a person, even if I thought they were a really good writer. There are quite a few people like that. Let me tell you something. Here's something we can talk about a little bit. There's this idea that if you can do something well, that makes you a good person. That is not true. I don't care what it is. You can be a very good, doctor and still be a horrible person. You could be a very good Catholic priest and still be a horrible person. You could be a very good writer and be a horrible person. It doesn't matter what you do. Your competency within the realm of your occupation or your the thing that you're doing, just because you're a terrific baseball player doesn't mean that you're a great person. It just doesn't. You may be extremely competent and just be a jerk. And so when I look out at the world and I see who do I want to feature on my channel, I can think of several writers who I think are just really, really good writers, and yet I don't want anything to do with them. Not in that way. I'll read the stuff. I will. I read their, because they're good writers. I will read just about everything they write that I come across, because they write terrific poetry, or they write terrific short fiction, or they write terrific novels. But when it comes down to would I feature them, or would I even be friends with them? And a lot of the times the answer is no. I don't care how famous they are. I don't care how accomplished they are. I don't care what they can do for me or my career. If you're a person who's just really not a good person, I still want to associate with you. Not at this point in my life. I'm almost 50, and to some people that's kind of young, but to a lot of people that's kind of old. And right in that age where people are like, I'm a little bit over the hill. I'm not so far over the hill that, the sunset is right in my face. But at this point in my life, the idea of associating with people just to succeed a little more, no. Keep it. I don't want it. You don't have it. You don't have enough. You don't have enough. If I'm associating with you on any level, it's because I like you. At this point, honestly, you may think that I don't like you, but because I disagreed with you on this or that or the other thing. But if I associate with you on any level, it's because I like you. Otherwise, I'd get rid of you. You'd be gone. I've gotten rid of family members for this reason. I just don't care anymore. I don't care. It's just not something that interests me to waste any more time with people I just don't think well of. And so, if I'm featuring you on my channel, then I think that both A, you're a terrific writer, and B, you're a really outstanding individual. Now, could I be wrong about you? And sometime in the future, turns out that all my thoughts about this person were inaccurate, and they are not really all that great. It's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. I've had that happen in the past. But generally speaking, that's the way I feel about it. And so, in some ways, I'm a little worried, because to hit that criteria, I don't know that there are 300 writers who fit that criteria. Out of the 300 writers that I admire as writers, without a doubt, many more than that. And there are 300 writers or more than that I admire as people. But to hit both those marks, to hit the mark where I admire you as a person and I admire you as a writer, those are too high standards. And to combine them in the same person is not as common as one would hope. But there are definitely people left. There are quite a few left. And I'm looking forward to having more and more features. But I think that I was playing with the idea that I would do it as almost as a literary journal, and I'm just not sure that I want to do that, because it would involve. Obviously, I could submit work. They could have them submit work, and I could go through that work and pick the work that I think is great, and it would be terrific work. Then I'd be featuring people that I, maybe just don't feel like associating with. Anyway, so I'm thinking about splitting it into 3 parts, which would be literary, commentary, and gaming. And those 3 parts would each be their own channel. Because I don't think that those 3 parts all connect very well. I'm not sure that the people who come for literary stuff want to deal with commentary, and I don't think that the people with commentary are overly concerned about gaming. And poets and gamers, not too many of them. So generally speaking, that's been my thoughts on the whole channel. And but it's been an interesting experience. The whole thing has been an interesting experience, because you do all this stuff and you say to yourself, well, I would like to accomplish this, this, and this, and this, and what you end up doing is accomplishing other things. You find out who's really paying attention to your work. Now, that's not something I expected to get out of this, but I'm learning more that some of the people I thought were following my stuff just not following it at all, and some of the people who I didn't expect that from are. So it's interesting. What else do I want to talk about? I just want to talk about the channel. That's to some degree that's just hardwired. But I did buy the new camera, and I did buy the thing to protect the microphone, and I got some vegetable stock, which I love, the Nor vegetable stock, which is just terrific for soups and stews and that kind of thing. My next feature I've already decided this. I decided this ahead of time. My next feature poet is going to be Michael McNeely. Now, Michael McNeely is a deceased writer who was a good friend of mine back before he died in the, I believe, either the very late 90s or the early 2000s. He perished. He died of a heart attack. And I don't have permission to publish his work, but I don't see anybody complaining about it. I don't even know who I would go to for that permission. His work is freely open online. I mean, it's freely available. I'm just gonna pull some poems, read them, and if anybody comes up and says I have a problem with that, that's fine. They can come. I'll just take it down. But I'm not making money from this, so I don't know why they would have a problem with me celebrating Michael's work. But I'm really kind of looking forward to it, because he was a terrific writer. He was a great guy, and I miss him a lot. I really do. There are not a lot of people from that time that I miss. There's maybe 2 or 3, and one of them is Michael. Another one is my friend Jim Chandler, and I'll get to him eventually as well. So those things are what I'm thinking about. The other thing I'm thinking about is the heat. Can't stop thinking about the heat. It's incredibly hot. I am not a fan of heat. I've been living in the Pacific Northwest now for 20 years. The average temperature around here for most of the year is 55 degrees, 52 degrees in that area. I like it right there. So when you get up into the late, the high 80s and the low 90s, I'm not a happy guy. I don't have air conditioning in the house or central air or anything. And we rely on fans, and it's not usually a problem, because you only really get heat every 2 weeks a year, and it's usually not that bad. But man, this summer this is brutal, and I'm having to drink a lot of water, Good God Almighty. And so I've been doing that. I'm gonna drink some water right now. Dealing with the heat. Been dealing with I haven't been playing that many games because I've been busy. I had the dental work done. The dental work, it was brutal. I've been to the dentist about 6 times in the last month, 2 months, and every time has been awful. Every single time. I've had 3 root canals, and I have another one to go. I've had crowns put on 3 teeth. I've had endless numbers of cavities taken care of. It's just, oh my goodness. My teeth have been a disaster my whole life. And now, the dentist even told me, it's like, you've done a lifetime of work on your teeth in like last month. Like, you have no idea. Yes, it's been that, and it's been just as bad as you might think it is. And they're not as liberal with the nitrous oxide and the pain meds as they used to be because of the whole opioid epidemic. And so, basically, you've had to just sit there and suffer through it. And it's a lot of the times it's just not good. It's just not good. Pain is one of those things where I'm a complete liberal. I just don't think that there's ever any reason why you should not be just completely generous with pain medication. I just think there's no reason why anybody should ever be made to suffer. And if they become addicts, they become addicts. That's on them. But if somebody's suffering through a lot of pain and you say, here, take this aspirin, no, that's not good. That's not good. That's just garbage. That's just CYA, just covering your own butt. But it's not, you're not caring about the patient at that point. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why somebody who's going through dental distress like that should have to sit there and suffer. I've had experiences where, because my teeth are the roots of them are very deep, and inside, and when you pull one out, or when you drill into one, or you do a root canal or something like that, we're not talking about the average person. My roots are almost twice as deep as the average person, so it's way up in my face. It's like close to the jaw, and the pain is much more severe. And so when they say, here, have this medication that is mostly aspirin or whatever, it's not good. You got to take that into consideration, but they don't. They just don't care. In some ways, it's become like the Soviets. And I listened to this woman talk about the Soviet Union once, and she said, because pain medication was in such short supply, and they saved it for like major operations, there was no pain medication available, no anesthesia, nothing like that for dental work. And now, I may not get the pills that I need for afterwards to relieve the pain, but during it, I certainly get anesthesia. These people didn't. She said, like, walking by these places, it was like medieval torture chambers. People were just screaming in agony, and screaming and screaming and screaming as these dentists do their work on these poor people. And then you have these people running around saying socialism is great, yay, socialism. And I think, good, let's send you to the dentist under socialism, under Soviet communism, one time, and see if you don't change your mind about socialism right fast. There is nothing great about socialism. It's disaster in every way you can think of. There is nothing good about it. It is as bad an idea has ever been put in the minds of men. That's how bad socialism is. It's really, it's evil as anything Cain did. That's how bad it is. There's nothing you can think of can defend it. Everywhere socialism is put into practice, really put into practice, not just nibbling around the edges of capitalism, but really put into practice, horrors ensue every time. Every time. If you give control over the economy to the government, it never fails. Disaster always ensues. Every time. They can, you think about it, it's like, it's a crazy idea. These people rail about not my president, and this guy's just the most horrendous human being in the world, Donald Trump. And then they want to say, but let's give him like full control over the medical system. Let's just throw all the government control into the hands of these people that, because I guess they think that, they're always going to be beneficial and beneficent leaders. But that's not always the case. It's hardly ever the case, in fact. It's usually the opposite. America has really been quite lucky in that most of its leaders have not been truly horrendous people. Now you have Woodrow Wilson here and there, who's just not a good person. You have some real questionable guys like LBJ. You have some real paranoias like Nixon. You have some people like George W. Bush who just aren't really all that bright. And you have people like Obama who are totally self-absorbed and believe their own press and how wonderful they are. And then they go out and they do stupid stuff because they don't ever take in any criticism. But generally speaking, we've been lucky. We've been lucky that there's not been a leader who's been really, really bad. Because you could get that. And don't give me the Trump garbage. If you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, we got one now. No, we don't. No, we don't. We have never had, certainly not in anybody who's alive's lifetime, had a president who was really bad. I'm struggling to think of one that was, even in the past, that was real. We have some real incompetence. You can look at a Garfield or somebody like that, or somebody just not good at the job at all. Ulysses S. Grant was not good at the job. There are lots of people who were not good at the job. And then you look at Wilson, who was an inveterate racist and just a progressive moron in a lot of ways. I mean, he's probably the most despicable of all our presidents. And Andrew Jackson's, he's problematic. But very close to the top would be Woodrow Wilson. And Wilson he's not that bad. When you look at somebody, Germany put forth a Hitler, and Italy put forth a Mussolini, and Russia put forth a Stalin, and China put forth a Mao, and Japan put forth a Hirohito, and you can go on and on. Castro and Cuba. These people, you can really end up with to some degree. Our Constitution protects us from bad people. You don't really know how bad a guy, say, Jimmy Carter was. I don't think Jimmy Carter was that bad a guy, to be honest with you. I think he was incompetent. I think he had no clue how to handle foreign affairs or the economy. But I don't think that he was a bad guy. I don't think he was, a tyrannical idiot or something. But you really don't know the full extent of how horrible these people could be if they weren't constrained by the Constitution. I think Obama might have been that kind of bad guy if he was not constrained by the Constitution. The Constitution, in some ways, made Obama pull back. Because I think if not for that Constitution, he would have done a lot more. I mean, you've seen it with the executive orders. You've seen the idea that I'm not even going to deal with you, Congress. I'm just going to decree things from here, and I'm going to appoint people in the Supreme Court who are just going to rubber stamp whatever the left wants, and I'm going to, and we'll just have to drag these people who disagree with me into the 21st century because they're a bunch of morons. And that was his idea. That was the way he looked at the world. And, if he wasn't constrained by the Constitution to some degree, I think that he could have been that kind of guy. But you don't know that. I mean, you don't know that. That's a supposition. It's a hypothesis. It's not a fact. I mean, a lot of people get confused by this stuff, and they say, "I think if there was no Constitution, Trump would just start killing people." Well, maybe. I mean, that's your hypothesis, but it's not a fact. A lot of these people treat this stuff as fact. If Trump was president, he will nuke the planet. Well, he's been president 2 years now. He didn't nuke the planet. So that was your hypothesis. It was proven wrong. If Trump is president, he will destroy the economy. And we just have 4% growth. 4.1 to be exact. And they said that wasn't even possible anymore. And so that was your hypothesis. Just turns out to be wrong. I try not to make big hypotheses like that. I try not to say, oh, Obama would have, rounded up, white men and shot us against the wall. I guess that's possible, but I don't think it's likely. I think that the guy was a little bit of a racist. I think he still is, but I don't think he's that evil. I think you'd have to be really, really evil to stomach that kind of genocidal type of stuff. You'd have to really, really. I don't. There was a Nazi. I forget which one it was. It was one of the higher ups. It was along the lines of a Goering or Goebbels or something like that. It was high up, but I forget which one it was. It was a high-ranking general, and he said, he was all for the Holocaust, and he said, and one day he went out. He says, I want to see it because I just want to show just everybody how I would laugh at this thing taking place and how it's perfectly normal and natural. And he went out and he watched these Jewish people be just gunned down. They were just, I think they were just a firing squad, and he left like just weeping and just shocked and stunned and sick, and he couldn't live with it. And that's how it's not an easy thing. There's one of my favorite movies, Unforgiven, and one of my favorite lines from that movie with Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman. And one of my favorite lines from that movie is, he said, "It's a hell of a thing to kill a man. You take away everything he has and everything he's going to have." And I just thought that's exactly right. We watch all these movies in which people are killing people left and right, but the idea of killing somebody, that's not an easy thing to do. You got to be a special kind of scumlord to be able to kill people, and then to kill people on that scale. So I would never ascribe that to somebody, even somebody I disagree with profoundly politically. But there are probably some people out there who have the stomach for that. I mean, obviously there are, because we've seen it in the past. We know that there are people out there who are capable of such atrocities. And, I don't understand them. I don't get it at all. I couldn't be a party of that at all. I would turn the guns on the people with the guns. I would turn my gun on people with the guns. There's no way. If you were just like mowing down, and I don't even care what the people did. If they were child molesters and you were like mowing them down, I couldn't do it. There has to be another way, a more civilized way to deal with things than that. Okay, I wanted to keep these under a half an hour. I'm right at a half hour now. So I'm going to sign off here, and I hope you found this valuable. It's a free form, so I was just talking. I do have a couple of opinions that I want to do. One is a book review of the recent Soroyan book I read, and the other is a rant about a couple of things about the poetry world that is really, really starting to bother me. So we have that to look forward to, maybe even today, maybe over the next couple of days. And there'll also be a new poem coming up very soon. I haven't picked it out yet, but it'll probably be from the book. And I hope you get a chance to check that out. Check out the other stuff. Check out the stuff you missed in the past. And as always, thank you for listening, and God bless you.